Welcome to Let's Get Into It. I am your host, Sherelle Higgins. Let's Get Into It is a safe space to have real conversations that are meant to uplift, encourage, and let you know you are not the only one dealing with life. Each episode of Let's Get Into It is designed to provide illuminating and thought-provoking information on a variety of topics. In fact, no topic is off limit. If you would like to see a topic discussed, please feel free to make a recommendation. My special guest and I will have a great time discussing topics that the mainstream media wouldn't dare discuss. We will bring these conversations to you with an open mind, respectfully, from different perspectives, and most importantly, with love. Thank you for joining me and my special guest. Now, let's get into it. Hello, hello, hello. Thank you all for joining me for another episode of Let's Get Into It. I am your host, Sherelle Higgins, and I am so excited once again to bring you this very important conversation. I am going to drop in the comments my link to my YouTube channel. If you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, that would be great. I certainly appreciate that. I would like to, as many of you all know, 2 days ago, I celebrated my 58th birthday. And when I tell you I had a great time, I felt like I was having a social media party. I was dropping videos, people were commenting, and multiple people, the same person commented on multiple videos saying, happy birthday, giving me all kind of shout outs, repeating my infamous line of party over here, ain't nothing over there. It was just great. My man took me out. We went to a show, we went to dinner, we stayed the night at a hotel, we got up the next day, we kicked it in Maryland, and then I finally got home last night, and it was great. And so thank you all. As I stated on social media the other day, Facebook limited the number of comments that I could make on my birthday. And so if I did not get a chance to say thank you personally to you, it is not because I wasn't trying. It was because Facebook was being a hater. And so thank you, thank you, thank you. It was a great birthday. As many of you all know, I like to celebrate my birthday every year because it's so important for us to live our lives to the fullest. And I intend to do just that. And as a part of living our life to the fullest, we have to do some check-ins with ourselves to make sure that our mental health is intact. And as many of you know, this is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so my guest and I today, we're going to talk about mental health. We're going to talk about some things that we do for self-care and, make sure that we keep our mental health in the spotlight. And that comes first. That's most important for each individual. Also, I want to wish all the mothers a Mother's Day, happy Mother's Day. That is coming up on the 12th. I hope you all plan to do something to celebrate yourself as a mother, because as a mother, that job is not hard and it never ends. And so happy early Mother's Day to all the mothers, all the aunties who step in and act as mothers, all the friends who step in and act as the mothers, all those who support the mothers and play a mother role to somebody. That role is very important. So, as I said in my intro, I'm going to always keep these conversations in the forefront, because one of the things we don't do as human beings is we don't talk about the tough stuff. We don't talk about certain topics. We think that certain topics are off limits, or we are embarrassed, or whatever, as the reason why we don't talk about these things. I'm going to keep it real. I'm going to keep it authentic. My guests are going to do the same thing, and also going to make sure that we just tell you what our experience is. Not this may not be your experience. You may not never have to experience these things, but somebody you know is going to experience some of life's challenges. And even if it's not a challenge, on this show, a couple of shows back, we talked about preparing for retirement. That's something we don't typically talk about as humans. We just sit back, and next thing we know, somebody's retired. We want to know how they were able to retire, but for whatever reasons, it's a taboo subject and you're not supposed to ask. And so what I ask my guests is to let's talk about things that we typically don't talk about. And today is not going to be any different. Today, my special guest is Wilma O'Rourke Strong, affectionately known as Cookie. She is a 1984 graduate from the almighty Virginia State University. We love it, we love it, we love it. And is originally from Miami, Florida. Earned a bachelor's degree in business administration and took her talents back to Miami after she graduated to work for Deloitte Haskins and Sells, now just known as Deloitte, where she maintained a leadership role through several mergers and acquisitions and retired as a regional operations manager out of Atlanta office several years ago. She met and married fellow Virginia State University graduate, retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Noah Strong in 1991, and they have two children, Noah and Evan. And Cookie, we have a lot in common because Jim and I got married in 1991 as well, and we have two children, both one girl and one boy. So we have a lot in common just starting there. Not to mention we went to Virginia State. And
Yes.
so if everybody can join me in welcoming Cookie to Let's Get Into It.
Hello. Hi there. It's good to be here with you, Miss Sherelle.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad that you agreed to do this, Cookie. But before we jump into having the authentic conversation, I also want to mention that Cookie is a mother, a daughter, a caretaker, a Golden Life member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority and the Lynx Inc., and a recent widow that lives in Atlanta in the suburbs of Powder Springs, Georgia. So again, welcome, Cookie.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm all of those things.
And so, Cookie, I know it's been a pretty tough few months for you, and so I am really, really grateful that you have agreed to have this conversation. So, my first question for you is, how did you learn about Virginia State from Miami?
Ooh, this is going to surprise you. Um, so, growing up in South Florida, most people either went to Florida A&M University or Bethune-Cookman College. I am someone who would have been a fourth generation Rattler. I was going to FAMU. Honestly, I did not even know that Virginia State existed. I certainly did not know it was an HBCU until I got there. I followed an uncle who retired from FAMU, and lo and behold, I ended up at Virginia State.
Okay. We didn't have very many people at Virginia State from Florida.
I
And
know.
so I was curious as to how you found out about Virginia State.
Yep, it
Um,
was my uncle. Yep.
okay. And how did you meet Noah?
So I've been telling this story. That's a true story.
This
No,
your version of his?
no, this is our version.
Okay.
Yeah, it was definitely our version. I asked my parents for a stick shift. I had a car in Miami, but I wanted a sports car. I asked for a stick shift and forgot to tell them I didn't know how to drive a stick shift. And Noah was someone on campus that had a stick shift. I, I didn't know it was a cap or anything. I just knew he had a stick shift. So I asked him one day, no, are you driving a stick shift? He said, yeah, I am. I said, can you teach me how to drive? And he said, sure, I can do that. And I didn't know him other than that car, but he taught me how to drive within a couple of weeks. And shortly after that was yeah, our lessons were over. I took him to dinner. Me and my roommate at the time went out to dinner with him, and we parted ways. But that is how I met Noah.
Okay, and what was your first impression of Noah?
His car, number one. But Noah was very handsome. He was a member of Kappa Alpha Psi. Um, very charming. But that was my impression that he was just nice. He was willing. He was such a gentleman, and that was my impression. I did not know much about him beyond that.
Okay, and so as Noah was in the military, in the Army, Lieutenant Colonel, and I know that most military men have to step away from their families to go be deployed throughout your marriage. And so, my question is, as an Army wife, how were you able to navigate a successful marriage and raise kids while he was in the military?
So I had a lot of help from my family and my friends. Noah had his military career, and I had my career at Deloitte. At the time, I was a regional operations manager having to travel,
Mhm.
and my girlfriend had an au pair. So my introduction to an au pair was through actually Evan's godmother, and I ended up getting an au pair as well. So that enabled me to be able to travel myself, although my child, Noel, Noel didn't take too well to the au pair, especially when I started giving the young lady, she was from Colombia. She was very young, but I started giving her Noel, some of Noel's clothes that I was going to take to Goodwill, and Noel was having none of that. So it lasted a couple of months, but it helped me to balance what I needed to do with my job and my children. But Noah was always in a position where he could communicate with us. So that was very helpful. The technology was there, so we could communicate with him pretty often.
Okay, all right. And I know you were married for 30 plus years.
Yeah.
And so, what did you and Noah like to do as a couple that both of you all enjoyed?
Um, we were foodies. We loved going to different restaurants, just trying out different things. Noah and I did not travel. We did not live overseas. Noah lived everywhere. I didn't want to go any place that was very far from my mom. So when we were together, we loved to go out to eat. We loved music. We loved watching documentaries. When we were living up in the DC area, we would take day trips and whatnot. And we went to we went to Hawaii not too long ago. We were in Panama before that. Um, but we loved watching. He loved Jeopardy, but I would always sit there and watch him watch Jeopardy and wonder, how do you know this stuff? This was, that was always our thing. But that we enjoyed each other's company more than anything.
My husband always says, same stuff, different house. And so, my husband watches Jeopardy and can answer the questions. And I look at him and say, how do you know this stuff?
Right, right. It's crazy. Yeah.
So, I
So
get that. So, as you think back over the 30 something years that you all were married, tell us about one of your fondest memories.
fondest memory when when we were married, because you cut out a little bit. You're asking for a fondest memory when we were married.
Yes.
Wow, 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 wow. So many of them. Probably anytime we were together with our kids in their college environment. With Noelle, it was whenever she was in a show at Florida A&M. She majored in theater performance,
Okay.
and so we spent quite a bit of time back and forth to Tallahassee. And with Evan, my goodness, Evan went to, you all hear me all the time.
Northside.
Just going and being on campus with him in that environment is so different from what we're accustomed to. But those are my fondest memories anything that included our children, because we were just big on being together and being a family.
Yes, family is very important. And
Mhm.
so, as a baby boomer, they call you all, I'm not a baby boomer, I'm Gen X, but they call you all the sandwich generation. And
Yes.
so, um, talk to us about what that means for you.
Okay. Sandwich generation. Yeah, I get this. Having to take care of your parents and take care of your children. And I believe my dad is on. Love you, Dad. But yeah, for a while there, it was just really crazy just watching your parents age, and then you have kids. And one of the reasons why I always stayed here in Georgia as opposed to moving to DC was because the kids were nearby. I needed to be at arm's length, as much as possible. And the same with my parents. When Noah became ill, my sandwich turned into a double decker, like a club sandwich. I
Yes.
was caring for my mom and dad, caring for Noah, and still trying to care for my kids. It's hard to balance. It was very hard to balance, but I'm still here. That's
There,
all I can say.
great God.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so let's talk about that journey that you had to walk. I noticed when you said that you were taking care of your parents, your kids, your husband, you didn't mention yourself. And so a little bit later, we're going to talk about some self care, because as women, we often forget to take care of ourselves because we don't have time for that because we're taking care of everybody else. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about that. But before we go into that topic, can you share with the audience when and what was Noah diagnosed with?
So you went out.
Okay,
The feed
let
is
me repeat it.
freezing.
Okay, I'll repeat it. When and what was Noah diagnosed with?
Um, so in 2014, and let me just put this out there because it's personal. It is Noah's story, and Noah was okay with sharing his story. And that's why I am okay with talking about Noah's journey that I happen to be on with him. Noah was diagnosed in 2014 with prostate cancer. At the time, he was on one of those deployments, which happened to be in Virginia. He was at Fort Lee, then Fort Lee, and he was diagnosed while I was here in Georgia. He's up there. Um, I did not get an opportunity to go with him to any of his doctor's appointments. Um, but he would call and just tell me, hey, this is what's going on. And I'm very inquisitive. I want to know all of the details. So what else did they say? Well, what does this mean? When. And so I got the gist of it. Noah had a procedure. It's called brachytherapy. And that procedure pretty much put him in remission. So I would classify Noah as someone who was a cancer survivor
Mhm.
in 2014. What I did not know, and I don't think he was fully aware, when Noah had his follow-up exam 6 weeks after that surgery, I did go to Richmond. I sat there with the doctors and I listened. And just as Noah was assured, I was assured too that everything was okay. What we did not understand was that that procedure, um, it works well, But 90% of the people who have that procedure, those recipients have a recurrence of the disease within 8 to 9 years. And sure enough, Noah reached about the 8 year mark when he started to have some indication that there was a problem again.
Okay. And Ira is on, and Ira commented to say that Noah helped him with his own journey and that he will never forget him for that. So, uh, our family is certainly appreciative that you all were willing to share the story so that you could help somebody else, which happens to benefit
Mhm.
my family. So, thank you all for that.
Mhm.
Again, let's get into it. It's all about sharing information and experience so that we know what to look out for and we know how to, take care of ourselves. And so, with Noah being in the military, I know that they had regular physicals and
Mhm.
medical checks and all of that. And so,
Mhm.
what was it? What was going on with Noah when it was discovered?
So we were driving to Huntsville, Alabama one day to visit Noel. I believe Evan was there at the time too. And he kept having to go to the bathroom. And again, I have to say and put this disclaimer out there. I would only have this conversation knowing that Noah was okay with it. I kept a journal while he was ill, and I was very descriptive at times with what I wrote in the journal that was shared with all of our family and friends, select people.
Right.
And I got that idea from Sharon, your sister. That's the Caring Bridge. So I would say that Noah's that drive to Huntsville, he kept having to go to the bathroom. He said, "Look, I got to go to the bathroom again. I got to go." And we kept pulling over. Like it's only a 3 hour drive, 3.5 hour drive, and we stopped about 4 times. Um, that was probably the beginning of it. Just that frequency in having to go urinate.
Thank you for sharing that because, oftentimes if, our men are not in the military, they may not be getting those medical checkups like they need to. And
Mhm.
just hearing what some of the symptoms could be doesn't necessarily mean that's what it is. But
Mhm.
at least if you having that issue, you can
Mhm.
at least go get checked out so that,
Right,
the earlier you catch it, the better off you are.
right.
So thank you for sharing that. And so, can you tell us just a little bit about the conversation you and Noah had when you all knew that you had to share this diagnosis with your kids?
Mhm. So it's another trip to Huntsville, and we had been there all weekend. I know what my children are on. I'm certain of that. I can't tell who's on and not, but um, we went to lunch, and just before leaving town, and like most families, all four of us had our cell phones out, and we are all on our cell phones, not paying attention to each other, but to the phones. And then Noah put his phone down, and I put the phone down, and I just looked at him, hey, it's time. And I remember Noel looking at him very intently, and then Evan. Evan put his phone down, and he just said, "Look, guys, this is what's going on with me. Um, I the cancer that I had has come back, and this is what the doctors are going to do. I have decided that I would go into a research study at NIH, which is in Bethesda, Maryland, National Institutes of Health. And he said, and I just don't want you all to be worried. It's going to be okay, but you need to know. You
Mm.
need to know what's going on." And just like I always do, we left the restaurant and I said, "Come on, let's take a picture." So, we took pictures at every stop of our lives. We were taking pictures. So, we took a picture and we left, and the kids just, as long as they heard his voice every day, and got to see him on FaceTime or whatever, they were okay. And I had to be okay because I eventually had to just be his voice for all of it.
Yes. Again, it's so important for us to not only have these conversations, but have it with our kids because, you know, you go to the doctor and they ask you what's your family history, right? And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times people don't know what their family history is. And so, I've known some people who, try to keep it a secret
Mm-hmm.
from the family and friends and try to walk that path on their own. And so I just think you all sharing it and the way that you shared it is to be applauded because once once you nearing the end and you spring it on people, that's more shock to the system, right? And
Right.
so being able to share with your kids so that they understand the family history, and particularly with your son, now he can go to the doctor and say, "My father had prostate
Mm-hmm.
cancer," and they know to be on the lookout, right?
Right.
And so,
Right.
again, that's just very important to do. So, at some point, Noah was going through chemo and radiation, and I
Right.
know that that takes a toll on the body and the mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And so, how were you able to manage that while also providing that parental support?
Um, yeah, so when you sign up for a study at NIH, um, it's like having every specialist you want at your fingertips. And not just specialists, just services at your fingertips. The doctors said to us, if you ever want us to talk to the children too, we will talk to them. But we didn't want that because we could talk to them. Um, but managing what was going on at NIH, what was going on at home, and it wasn't just NIH. It was Inova, Fairfax.
Mhm,
It was Emory University here in Atlanta. There were several hospitals and healthcare facilities involved. I have apps on my phone, portals to all of them, so I would have to keep up with what was going on. I managed because I knew I had to manage it all for him, for us, for our families. Um, Thank goodness I was not working because caring for Noah became my full time job, but it was my honor to do so.
mhm,
And not just for Noah, it was for our families. I wanted everyone to be informed, and I wanted to be able to tell what Noah wanted me to say. I never said anything or wrote anything or, without him knowing first. I keep the journal and I'd write in it and I'd read it to him first before I published it. But managing it, Noah helped me to manage it. He would tell me, anytime he saw me getting upset, he said, "Cookie, don't do that." And I'm like, "What do you mean, don't do it?" I mean, I just want to scream. I really,
right.
sometimes I just wanted to scream. He said, "You can't get upset because you'll get sick. And if you get sick, I can't take care of you." And I reminded myself of that all the time. I still do remind myself because now I feel like I can't get sick because I can't take care of my mom and dad if
Mm,
they need me. I can't take care of my kids if they need me. But I got through it. by the grace of God. I mean, there were many times I had to go outside. We lived in this little tiny condo in Alexandria. And while the day that we closed on that condo was the day that we found out Noah's cancer came back.
Mm,
So we couldn't even celebrate. We did, but for me, I'm like, oh, I wanted to decorate. And I decorated, I made it comfortable and all of that, but I saw it as like a waiting room. That's what it
mm,
became for me. It was a waiting room for the next ER visit, for the next NIH visit, for the next Fairfax, for the next surgery. Cancer is, I understand now. I did not understand when people would say cancer sucks, but cancer does not care. It doesn't care that it doesn't care who you are, what you are, how you live, who you love. It just does not care. And it's grueling. It's brutal. It is it is to me. Noah has, they have this term when they're in the military that you have these battle buddies. Children
mhm,
knows, my
mhm,
battle buddies. These are my guys. And I realized that while his friends were right there with him, and I mean his friends, Noah's friends, they call themselves battle buddies, but they were brothers, and they didn't necessarily have to be his frat brothers. They were
mhm,
his friends. I realized that I was his wife, his caretaker, his friend, and I became his battle buddy too.
mm,
And because we were fighting together. Um, we prayed on our knees. We get on our knees until we couldn't get on our knees anymore, and we had to get on our backs, and we would pray on our backs in bed every night. And Noah was just a soldier to his core. He truly was. The doctors would say, okay, okay, Colonel Strong, we need to do this today. We need to go do a scan. We need to do this exploratory surgery. He never flinched. He would always say, okay, let's do it. Let's get it over with. And so I learned that I've just never seen anybody like him. And he was okay talking about it. He was okay even joking about it. And the doctors loved to see him. He because he could talk about it. He could speak about it intelligently, but also realistically. And he would just point blank ask. He asked the doctor one day, he said, so is this terminal? Oh, no, 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 Mr. Strong, it's not terminal. No, we're not there yet. We're not there. But
okay.
he was ready for it.
Okay. So
Whatever.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, 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 no. Go ahead.
So Ira said, absolutely, the hereditary aspect is extremely important. My father's reluctance to share could have helped us navigate a little better. 4 out of 5 of my mother's sons have been diagnosed with prostate cancer. We all caught it in time because of my oldest brother sharing information. I've discovered over time that once you are diagnosed, that it is a lifetime journey. You have to keep watch
Mm-hmm.
and pray. To God be the glory.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Um, so during this time, a dear friend of ours, Diane, lost her battle to breast cancer. Talk to us about what impact that had on you.
Mm. Um, this is compounding it, a little bit for me. Diane and I, I'm gonna tell you a funny story about Diane and I. We both ran for Miss ROTC at Virginia State. Noah, whom I did not know very well, was a judge in that pageant. And he voted for Diane to be Miss ROTC, and he voted for me to be Miss Company B. So when I realized that years later, I said to him, oh, so you didn't think I was good enough to be Miss ROTC. But what that pageant did for me was I met a very dear friend, Diane. And Diane and I became very close on campus. She pledged Delta in Richmond years later, and I flew up to Richmond to pin her Delta. It was a surprise, but there was a snowstorm. But I was there, and they had to postpone it. Diane, if I had not moved away from Virginia, we would have been still very close. But we were very close, and she called me when she was first diagnosed and told me about her diagnosis, right? And she said, I just want you to hear it from me. And when it came back, she called me again and she told me. And when she got to be too sick to communicate it herself, then Sharon called me and said, Diane wanted you to know this, that the cancer is back. It was during COVID. I was in Miami, and Sharon would call me or text me and keep me abreast of what was going on. When Diane died, Sharon called me within a few minutes and told me, and I ran downstairs and I told my dad. He didn't know who Diane was. He just knew that I was hurting and I could barely talk about it, but I was just telling him how bad I felt. I got into bed and I was in the bed for 4 days. Um, this is when I realized that something was not right with me. Noah and Noel had gone to her wake. And Sharon said, Cookie, you need to see her. You need the closure. You need to see her. And I agreed that I would look. And the next day, after being in the bed, I couldn't sleep. I was in the bed, but I was not sleeping. I got up and I said, I've got to go get help. And I didn't tell my dad that I was going anywhere. I just got in the car and I started driving towards an ER. And when I got there, I said to them, something's not right. The weight, there was this weight on me, and I could not keep my balance. And I had this prickly sensation all over. They sent me to another ER in Miami, and I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety. Diane's death, that is what triggered it for me. It and I still, they said, well, we're going to give you this medication. We're going to give you this. We're going to give you that. And I just did not want to do the medication. So for the longest, I did not take the medication. I, I swam. I would do laps every morning. Um, I would breathe. I would walk, anything but to take the medication. But that was the onset of the anxiety and depression for me.
Okay, thank you for sharing that because again, it's Mental Health Awareness Month, and we have to recognize when there's something wrong with us, right?
Right.
And a lot of times when we are not as healthy as we can be mentally, our circle of people recognize it, but don't necessarily know how to approach it,
Mm-hmm.
or how to bring the conversation up to say, are you okay? You don't seem to be okay, because a lot of times when people say, how are you doing, we say, oh, I'm okay, right? Because that's the easy way out, when in fact sometimes we're not okay,
Right.
and it's okay not and it's okay not to be okay sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So kudos to you for recognizing that something was not quite lining up with what you
Mm-hmm.
are accustomed to, and that you went and sought out help for that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I will tell you that the night that Diane passed away, I was there, and
Mm-hmm.
just seeing people go. I've seen several people at this point in my life go through that transition. It's tough, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
they say that as a body is transitioning, the last thing to go is the hearing. And so, you want to talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So Noah's family was in town. His sister and his brother, they went to Virginia State. Um, well, let me back up. Noah, in April last year, we were told there was nothing else that they could do at NIH and for us to come home and be close to family. And so we did just that. And I had to find um, a facility. Noah developed lymphedema. I had to find a facility that could treat him for that. And that's the fluid buildup. Eventually, he ended up in the hospital, and he was there for a very long time, long enough that my sister-in-law and my nephew, they would come and just kind of rotate with me, and the kids would come from Huntsville. And the day that Noah passed away, which was Father's Day, June 18th last year, the day that Noah passed away, he got up that morning. Noel had sang to him all night long. He got up that morning and he was very agitated. He just wanted to breathe. He said he just kept holding his arms up. He said, I need to walk. I need to do something. I just need to walk. And I could see that this is going downhill. I could see that. And I went in my bathroom and I called the hospice nurse. I said, I need for you all to come here. Somebody, well, we don't work on the weekends. What? People are sick 24/7. What do you mean? Eventually, I called 911. I said, I went to Noah. I said, Noah, you trust me, right? He said, yeah, absolutely. I said, Noah, we're going to go get the fluid off of you. We're going to the hospital. He said, okay. And then he started telling, he was telling Noel and his brother Mike and his son Marquise, they were trying to move him. And he said, everything that you all are talking about right now is arbitrary to what's really going on. I mean, he went straight into strong, the military man. It's arbitrary to what's really going on. You all need to put me down. Like, oh my gosh. So now I'm thinking he's okay. But we get to the hospital. We were not there 2 hours. There was the doctor in the emergency room that said, I can look in the chart. I know he can't have any more chemo, the fluid buildup, blah, 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 blah. What do you want me to do? I said, I want you to relieve him of the discomfort. He's not in pain, it's the discomfort. He said, okay, I can give him, morphine, or I can give him Lasix. What do you want? I said, give him the Lasix. He said, understand, anything that I give him is going to accelerate his passing. You do understand that he is going to pass today.
Mm.
And my child was within earshot. Now I'm trying to protect my child. And then I was done protecting everybody at that point. My girlfriend walked into the room and I just screamed, and Noah could hear all of that. And out of nowhere, his primary care doctor, who's a childhood friend from Miami, she walked in. I thought she was at Martha's Vineyard. It was like an angel walked in. I said, where did you come from? She said, it doesn't matter. She said, I need for you to calm down. Come here. She said, he can hear everything that's going on. I need for all of you to calm down and you talk to him. And that's exactly what I did. I had an opportunity to tell Noah. I thanked him. I thanked Noah for everything that he has ever done for me and the kids and his family, for allowing me to be who I am to him and evolve into the person I am. And the kids each had their time with him. And when we were all done having our time with him, Noel the doctor, she brought us all together. She said, "Come on, you all, gather around." And because he's transitioning. And Noelle, I didn't know where she was, but then she walked into the room and she had her music playing. And she said, "Daddy, this is the playlist you made me during COVID." And she put the song, the phone on his chest, and it was playing "You Know My Name"
Mm,
by Tasha Cobb. And Noelle sang her dad to glory. She sang that song. We all kind of hummed along with her. And I noticed that the ER doctor walked in and he was looking at the door. He was looking at all of us. And then he was looking up, and I turned and I looked. He was looking at the clock, and I
mm,
kept looking at his vitals. And when the doctor looked at the clock and I saw him write, I knew he was recording the time of death, and he went and he turned the machine off. It's still so unreal to me that Noah is not here, because he was such an important part of not just our lives, but our extended family, his co-workers, our neighborhood, our community. Yeah. So yeah, it's been difficult.
let me just read a couple of these comments that we have here. Um, Lots of people are sending you virtual hugs. Um, and I'm sending you one too. And just hearing your story, Cookie, it is really putting me in a place where I was with my father in law when he passed from pancreatic cancer. I was with my grandmother when she passed, just from, she was 93 years old. I was with my grandfather when he passed at 97 or 98. I was in Chicago with my sister when she lost her husband to cancer. And so you are just bringing back a flood of emotions. Um, while I have not lost my spouse, I can certainly understand the space that you're in. But I wanted to share some of these comments with you. Um, so Kevin Cosby said, Wilma O'Rourke Strong, you are a soldier. You are always in my thoughts and prayers, sweetie pie. Sean from Atlantic City says, I definitely can relate. When I was caring for my mom, I had to make sure I didn't get sick. I look back now and don't know how I did it. Nothing but God. Hugs. Sharon said, I remember those conversations with you. And um, Jackie says, my sister Jackie, who lost her husband to cancer, said, yes, the worst time when the doctors say it's nothing else we can do. And so, whew, um, Ira also says, Cookie, you have blessed us with this testimony today. And that's what the purpose of this is. It's not to bring back all of the raw emotions that I know you're living with every day. It's really to bless somebody else and help somebody else and help me. Um, again, I certainly appreciate that. So let me ask you this question. What are you doing for self care as you continue to grieve the loss of Noah, being strong for your children, and providing parental support?
So I'm very busy staying busy. I um I overdo it. I honestly, I'm still not fully there yet. I'm trying.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but for me, the whole mental health and self care, all of that is, and the grief, it's all kind of connected for me. Um, I love my solitude. Um, so I spend a lot of time alone. I I walk. I get up. So I learned something recently. My mother's doctor said your mom needs to drink water as soon as she gets out of the bed. That really helps. It helps your body regulate itself, and you're ready for the day. So I've started doing that. But I walk. I listen to music. I love all genres of music. I grew up in a musical household. My father's a musician. My mother played the organ at the church, the piano. My children, Noel's classically trained on the piano. Evan is he's a musician, so I love music. Um, I like to write. I wrote in the journal. Um, I got about 32 chapters in that journal. I write um, often. I wrote Noah's Dash instead of an obituary. I wrote a story about Noah, and then I recorded that story. So I enjoy writing. It helps me to relax. It helps me to relive some things, sad or happy. Um, I like getting going and just being pampered. Um, and I like to eat. I like different things, but I'm going to do some things. There's a word on my Facebook page.
It looks like Cookie is frozen. Can you hear me, Cookie?
Hear you,
Okay.
but everything that I do this year is going to be intentional. Intentionally doing some things that Noah and I plan to do that we won't get to do together, but I'll get to do with my friends and with my children. So I'm
Okay.
going to. Yep.
That's
Yep.
great. I'm glad to hear that you are going to take some time and be around your support system to help,
Mhm.
with your, mental health and as you continue to navigate this very difficult process. Just a few more comments I want to read here. Stephanie Allen says, "This is so touching. I'm sorry for your loss and thank you for sharing your heart with us." And Nardis King says, "Cookie, you continue to be a blessing to your family. Keep telling Noah's story." Yes, I agree. Deborah Griffith said, "Love you, Cookie. Thank God for such an amazing family and primary doc to help you through those moments. You have been a rock heart." Harriet Morris Johnson says, "Cookie, thank you for sharing your journey with us. We love you and I am always praying for you." And Narda said, "Grieving with grace." Yes. Lisa says, "Cookie, you will be blessed for being a blessing and sharing your story." Um, Wanda says, "Thank you so much for being a transparent for being so transparent by sharing your story, your testimony. Losing my mom a few months ago, and I was there when she took her last breath. Continue to be a blessing. Sending virtual hugs." Princess Lewis said, "I'm in the midst of grieving. Lost my bonus son 8 months ago. Haven't talked about it. Thank you for sharing." And so you are helping so many people. And, this is such a good thing. And I hope it's helping you as well. Just keeping Noah's memory alive, keeping his name out in cyberspace.
Mhm.
Noelle says, now she's about to make me cry. She says, "Love you, mommy." Um, and so, Cookie, during these times, people mean well, but sometimes they just don't know what to say or if they should say anything. Can you tell us something that people can say to somebody in your situation or something they could do to show their authentic support?
I'm going to tell you something they should not say.
Okay.
Um, People should not expect you to grieve the way
Mhm.
they would grieve or how long they would grieve. People should accept when you say I'm doing okay, when they say how are you doing, and you say I'm doing okay, because I am doing okay at that moment.
Right.
But don't say, but how are you really doing? I
Mm,
get that. And I'm like, well, what is it that you want me to say to you? But how are you really doing that? It's almost like an insult. Um, I have a neighbor. She's actually sitting across from me right now. She knock on the door, I open the door, and she just walk in and start doing stuff. Now I wouldn't let anybody just walk in and start doing stuff, but just knowing, just kind of knowing what you need, not having to
mhm.
ask a lot of questions, but just be there for you. My other friend is sitting here. My kids insisted that I go and live with her for a couple of weeks after Noah died. I wrote Noah's dash in her guest room bed. Um, just opening her door for me, and come eat, let's just be here, do what you need to do. And I finally had to say, I can't come to your house anymore. I have a house 4 minutes away. I'm okay. I'll be okay. But I just want to say, you reading those names off, um it warms my heart. It warms my family's heart, because many of those names are people that came to Noah's funeral that I was not expecting to see. Noah was so beloved. Um, and like I said it this way, I knew people loved him, liked him, but I didn't know that much. It means everything to me that, you know, to hear the comments, and just for the continuous support, and for understanding that right now, and accepting that I live out loud. So I share, my kids share. My child is an actress. She is someone who's always sharing things. And so some things get shared that I may not necessarily want to have shared, but she has shared it. But I'm okay with that. I just want to make sure that I tell you all, everybody who has said just a kind word, the comments, the text message, the cards, the gifts, everything, all of the tributes. There were so many cards. There were 300 cards in my house, and I thought
Mm.
I could control it, and I could not. And inevitably, I missed some people. Um, Here's something else. You should not ask a person, I don't think, did you get my flowers? I sent you flowers. Did you send? That happened to me. Um, I I'm sure I got them and everything. Thank you very much. But I just want to let everybody know how much we all appreciate the outpouring of love. And if I forgot, if it wasn't that, it was just a lot. It was overwhelming, but we so appreciate it. We really do. And thank
Let
you.
me let me say two things. Evan chimed in with a comment, and he said, "This beautiful lady has been our rock since both me and my sister were born. She is the strongest woman I know. Love you, mommy." And my sister Jackie said, "Yes, they will say or ask anything." She said, "The worst thing is a guy. When will you start dating again?" And she would say, and so,
Well,
well, I will tell you one thing. I will say this for our audience. If you are calling to offer your condolences, please don't say to people, "Let me know if you need anything." And then when somebody say to you, "This is what I need," don't start hemming and hawing about what you can't do.
mhm.
And so if you can only bring some ice, say, "Can I bring some ice?" If that's all, be really specific with that because people mean well and they'll say, can I, let me know if you need anything. And that covers a range of things. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you don't mean that, don't say that.
Right.
And so
Right.
before I end this, can you share with the audience what you're doing to keep Noah's legacy alive?
So I did establish an endowment at Virginia State. It's for their ROTC program. It is the Lieutenant Colonel Noah Kenneth Strong, retired Army endowment. I am going to do like people do on his birthday. Noah's birthday is this month as well. So not only is it Mental Health Awareness, Mother's Day, it is Noah Strong's birthday on May 20th. So I'm going to put on my Facebook page this year for my birthday. You can contribute. We're going to try that. I would love for people to contribute to his endowment. It is to help an ROTC student.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Okay, great.
And I know that you're experiencing a lot of first. And so I'll be praying for you as you go through those first times without Noah. I really, really want to thank you for your vulnerability, your willingness to share your journey. I can't express how important this conversation is and was, and how it will help a lot of us. Again, my condolences to you and your family. You are a phenomenal Black woman, and I hope you know that, and I know that you walk in that. So, thank you very much.
Thank
Um,
you.
I am going to kick into my what the hell segment. So just stick with me for a minute. Whew, okay. That was a great, great conversation. So I'm going to talk about what the hell. So I have heard one person too many talking about what is Vice President Kamala Harris doing? What the hell? What kind of question is that? And I've heard people say, well, she ain't contributing nothing. What the hell? I just want you all, if you hear somebody saying that, ask them what the hell are they doing to get this country on track? Because I guarantee you, Kamala Harris, our second lady, is doing way more than any average human being is doing in this country. People are talking about, she the vice president. I bet you these same people can't even name the past 5 vice presidents that all happen to be Caucasian men who nobody knew what they did, but then nobody questioned it. And so, what I'm going to say to you all is stop questioning her intentions, stop questioning what she's doing. She is doing her job, and stop acting as if what she's doing it should be minimized because you're not doing nearly as much as she's doing. So before you say something to criticize her or to judge her, ask yourself, what the hell? Thank you for joining me today and my special guest. I appreciate the support. Please, please, please stay tuned for the next episode in 2 weeks and have a great night. Thank you for joining and participating in Let's Get Into It. I want to thank my special guest for being brave enough to get into it. Without you, these conversations cannot happen. Remember, different viewpoints, respect, and love are the foundations of Let's Get Into It. If there's a topic you think I should discuss, drop me a recommendation. If you're interested in being my special guest, let me know because we can and will get into it. Have a great day on purpose, and I look forward to your continued engagement and support as we get into it.